Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The British Boxing Board of Control has ordered that Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce, the rising prospects, face each other for the vacant British heavyweight title. So this is actually quite an interesting development, and it's a fight I would really like to see, but there's just a part of me that just kind of thinks it's just not going to happen. But we'll go through that. But so starting off with the British Boxing Board of Control. So this is the circular from their website. Head office, heavyweight, Joe Joyce versus Daniel Dubois. So vacant British heavyweight title. The stewards decided to put out the above contest to purse bids in short terms to be submitted in accordance with the terms and conditions to the board's head office by 12 noon on Wednesday, 10th April 2019. The contest to take place by the end of July 2019. So as we know, at the moment, Joe Joyce, he doesn't have a fight. He's just come off a win over Berman Stavern in February. Decent performance, stopped Stavern in half a dozen rounds. Some criticism from fans, but overall, it was a decent performance for a guy, what was it, his 8th pro fight. Stopped former WBC champion. On paper, it looks good, even though Stavern, was a husk of a husk. Daniel Dubois, he's just had a fight recently over Razvan Kajanu, beat him in short order, knocked him out in the second round of their fight. He has another fight scheduled already for the back end of April against a WBO ranked fighter, Richard Lartey. So Dubois himself has just entered the rankings, and you can check that out from my rankings video. I just put that out yesterday. He is now 13th in the WBO, taking on Richard Lartey, who is 15th in the WBO. Dubois holds the WBO Europe strap, and Lartey has the WBO Africa strap. And at first glance, that would appear to be a little bit of a mismatch. Lartey has a padded record. He is sort of known to be a bit of a puncher, but he has been beaten before. And the first time that he fought outside of Ghana, and that was, 4 or 5 years ago, to a guy called Ergen Merson, who hasn't fought since. So we don't really know how good Lartey is, but I would expect that this is going to end in another Daniel Dubois knockout, and probably early in that fight. The limited footage that is available about Lartey suggests that he is open to being hit, and if you're hit repeatedly by Daniel Dubois, eventually that takes a toll and you get knocked out. So this matchup between Joyce and Dubois, I like it. That would be a great matchup because these two guys are on the way up, and Daniel Dubois is seemingly starting to take some of the next steps in his development, as is Joe Joyce, even though they've been talking about rushing Joyce along and accelerating his career. A guy like Berman Stavern at this point in his development is similar to a guy that Dubois has just fought, Razvan Kajanu. Guys that are on the fringe but nothing more now, and they're not going anywhere, but they're good cannon fodder to feed to these guys that are coming up. And that's what it's proved for both these guys with those two opponents. So Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois, that would be an interesting fight for a number of reasons, because both are big punchers, and Dubois so far, we really haven't seen him punch to any extent. We haven't seen him take much punishment at all. We don't really know what his chin is like. Maybe we'll get some sort of indication in the Lartey fight if he does take something on the chin. But it could be a case of, knock the other guy out or get knocked out yourself, because both these guys throw with bad intent, and you could certainly see either getting knocked out. Sort of it depends on, how good is Dubois' chin, and we know Joyce himself's got a relatively decent chin. He took a few good haymakers from Stavern in their fight, although Stavern, probably not as big a puncher as sort of rolling around in the division, and who knows whether at, just over 40 years old, if he's lost anything from his power that he used to have when he was a noted puncher, counter-puncher back in the day. But it would be an interesting fight, and I think many would want to see it, but I'm just not convinced it happens. So we'll just go to some reaction first. So this is from Frank Warren's Instagram, so I don't believe he's posted this, but whoever works for him has posted this. Delighted the board have ordered at Dynamite Dubois versus at Joe Joyce Boxing. Daniel has a tough fight on April 27 first up, but we asked for the fight. Daniel wants it, and we will reach out to Team Joyce to try and make it happen this summer. A big heavyweight night for British boxing. And then you go to Daniel Dubois, who's mirrored that statement, and he said, no problem. So he is indicating he would like that fight. And similarly, Joe Joyce on Twitter, he has come up with the Juggernaut is open to all offers. No problem. but will it get made? That is the actual question, because, fights are often ordered by the British Boxing Board of Control, and they don't happen. I mean, a recent example involving Daniel Dubois is he was ordered to face Nathan Gorman, and they were meant to, have purse bids and then fight by the end of March, by the end of this month. But it never happened. So just because it's ordered doesn't mean that it's going to happen. And some of these statements here by Frank Warren, Daniel Dubois, and Joe Joyce, it is what, they should be saying. They should be, for their image and their profile, they should be coming out saying, I welcome the opportunity, I welcome that fight, because if they didn't, they would get criticised and they would be accused of potentially ducking the other. And it just doesn't make any sense to do that, to potentially show any weakness or sort of say, yeah, I'm not interested, because you may remember when Hughie Fury held the British title. So because it is vacant now, it must have only been vacated recently. Hughie Fury was the holder, but he was ordered to face Joe Joyce, and it never happened. He basically said, he wasn't interested. He was looking to go to world level, and Joyce wasn't at world level, all that sort of stuff. But it came off in a certain way that he was ducking Joe Joyce, and I think a lot of fans sort of took it to be that way, that they didn't want anything to do with Joe Joyce. But now he has vacated the title, so this must have only recently happened because he still held it as of, a few weeks ago or a month ago, something like that. But now Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois have been ordered to fight for it. But where they are currently in their respective careers, it probably depends on a couple of different things. Well, money, that would be part of it, but also, does fighting the other guy now help them get any closer to a world title? And you could make a debate either way about that. I honestly don't know if this will happen. I think everyone will give it the big one right now and sort of say, yeah, I want that fight, let's make that fight. But then ultimately things probably go nowhere, talks break down, or never really get going, and nothing actually happens. So what we could end up seeing is, no purse bid is submitted, or a team decides to go another way, because they're talking about setting up a fight for Joe Joyce, his next fight. And they've openly been saying on Twitter, who would you like us to fight? Who do you want us to see it in with? And there's been a number of names sort of floating around, and some of them that have popped up multiple times have been the likes of Chris Arreola, Charles Martin, Adam Kovnatsky. And I would suspect Joe Joyce for his next fight is more likely to face someone in the PBC stable rather than someone like a Daniel Dubois. And the fact that an option of Chris Arreola has sort of been thrown out there, it could be actually a makeable fight. And Arreola himself is a bit on the slide these days. He's been on the slide for a long time. He's come back to boxing, had a couple of fights back, couple of wins, just beat Jean-Pierre Augustin just the other week. But I think that's a good fight for Joe Joyce right now. He would take care of him and get a win there and then move on to something else. So I think they will end up going a different direction for both these guys. And I don't think it's the fighters who wouldn't want this. It's more about sort of plotting the course to the title shot. And you could argue, definitely, that this sort of fight where both are big punches that, knocking the stuffing out of each other, someone takes a loss, then obviously that really does hurt their sort of path to a title shot, sets them back. And just consider Joe Joyce is 33 years old now. If he was to lose to a prospect in Daniel Dubois, it does really sort of set him back. And he can't afford to have any setbacks as he's going for this first title shot. So if he was to fight Dubois but lose, that could set him back 12 to 18 months, and he could ill afford to have that sort of setback right now in his career. So just because of all the permutations around what's happening with their careers, I kind of think, there's a lot of noise here and a bit of smoke going around about each wants it, that sort of stuff. I'm open to it, no problem, all that sort of stuff. But I just don't really think it's going to come off. I'd like it to come off because that would be a great fight. But yeah, is Dubois ready? Who knows? And is Frank Warren going to sacrifice him right now? And similarly for Joe Joyce, with Richard Schaefer and his manager Sam Jones, are they going to toss him in with a big puncher like Dubois right now? It'd be a different story if there was millions of dollars on the line and, it's a final eliminator situation or it was a really big fight. But at the moment, this sort of level of fight, the money's probably only going to be okay. So, you have to weigh these things up. It is a business after all, and they are all trying to weave their way to a title. But I like the fight nonetheless, and if it gets made, well, then all the better for boxing fans. But just remember, we've kind of been expecting big things in the heavyweight division this year, and most of it hasn't come off. So it's one of these situations where I like the sound of it, but I'm not holding my breath. How about you? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.